We kept the shop warm with a constant fire in the hearth, a luxury in the damp chill of Riften. Suvaris said it was for the reagents to keep the frost salts from weeping and the troll fat from going stiff. But we both knew it was for us. It was for our hands, for the ache that settled deep in the bones after hours spent grinding, stirring, and distilling. We were alchemists, and our work was a constant battle against the encroaching cold and damp of the rift. That evening the order was for the Temple of Mara, 24 potions of vigorous healing. Not their standard watered-down drafts, but the good kind, the kind that could pull a man back from a saber cat mauling. We worked side by side, a comfortable rhythm between us. I would handle the initial grinding of the blue mountain flour and the careful charring of the wheat, while she measured the water from the spring behind the temple, the only water in this city that did not taste of rust and regret. The work was demanding, but it was our work. It was the foundation of the life we were building here in Skyrim, a province that felt 1,000 miles from the ash and sorrow of our Morrowind home. "The consistency is almost right," Suvaris murmured, her focus entirely on the shimmering liquid in the retort. Her voice was low, a calming counterpoint to the bubbling of the alembic. "Another minute on the flame, I think. We do not want it to separate." I nodded, my attention on the pestle in my hand. I was working on the blisterwort, reducing the fibrous fungus to a fine, almost weightless powder. The motion was second nature, a circular grinding that I could perform in my sleep. It was a craft of precision, of patience. One hurried measurement, one moment of inattention, and a batch worth 100 septums could turn into a foul-smelling sludge. We had learned that lesson the hard way in our first year. Now our movements were economical, honed by thousands of repetitions. We were a single machine with 2 sets of hands. "How are the finances looking, Raven?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the potion. Her question was casual, but I could hear the tension coiled beneath it. It was always there, a low hum of anxiety that was as much a part of Riften as the Thieves' Guild or the endless drizzle. I finished the blisterwort and carefully scraped the powder onto a piece of clean parchment. "The temple pays on time. This order will cover the rent for the next month and the supplies we bought from the last Khajiit caravan. There will be enough left over for that new retort you wanted. The one with the reinforced glass." A small smile touched her lips. "And for a new coat for you? That one is nearly worn through at the elbows." "It has character," I said, and she laughed. The sound was bright in the small room, a spark of light against the gloom pressing in from the canal outside. We had dreams. They were not grand dreams of palaces or titles. They were simple. Larger shop, perhaps one on the main market plaza instead of tucked away near the canal. A small house with a garden where we could grow our own ingredients instead of haggling for every last nern root. The dream of a quiet life, earned with our own skilled hands. We believed it was possible. We had to. Without that belief, the damp of Riften would seep into your soul and you would end up like the husks who haunted the ragged flagon, their dreams long since dissolved in cheap mead. "Maven Blackbriar's man came by again today," I said, my voice dropping. I started measuring out the powdered blisterwort, my movements suddenly more deliberate. Suvaris finally looked up, her brow furrowed. "Leaf Stonefist? What did he want this time?" "The usual, a donation for the city guard's benevolent fund. He was suggesting that without our support, our shipments of ingredients might find themselves delayed or lost entirely." I did not look at her. I focused on the fine, white line of powder. I gave him 10 septums. He seemed satisfied for now. She was silent for a long moment, the only sound, the gentle hiss of the alembic. "That is the 3rd time this month, Raven. We cannot afford it." We cannot afford not to, I countered, a bit more sharply than I intended. This is Riften, Suvaris. You pay the unofficial taxes or you find your shop burned to the ground. We knew the rules when we came here. I know, she said, her voice soft again. I hate it. We work so hard. We follow the law, and still we have to pay tribute to thugs like him, to a woman like Maven who owns this whole city. I walked over to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Her frame was slight beneath the thick wool of her tunic. One day, we will not have to. We will be successful enough that even she will have to treat us with respect. We will be the ones who supply the Jarl's court. We will have contracts with the Legion. This is just a season, my love. It will pass. I tried to pour all the conviction I could into the words. I was not sure if I was trying to convince her or myself. We stood there for a moment, listening to the fire crackle, the warmth of it a small shield against the world outside our door. We had each other and we had our craft. We believed it would be enough. I checked the tally. 14 vials, each one a perfect shimmering blue, not the pale, watery blue of a healing potion. This is the blue of a deep lake under a clear winter sky. It is a color that promises escape. It is the color of forgetting. The process is complete. I hold one of the vials up to the light of the single candle that illuminates my workspace. The liquid is flawless. No sediment, no cloudiness. It is my best work, my most consistent. The room is a damp stone closet deep in the ratway. The air is thick with the smell of stagnant water and mold. The only furniture is a crate I use as a stool and the flat-topped barrel that serves as my alchemy table. It is not a shop. It is a hole, but it is secure. No one stumbles upon this place by accident. The only people who come here are the ones who know exactly where they are going and what they want. And they always have septums. I lay the 14 vials in a row inside a padded leather case. My fingers move with precision. I am a craftsman. This is my craft. I take moon sugar, raw and unpredictable, and I refine it. I distill its essence. I combine it with other, subtler ingredients. Nightshade for the vivid dreams, a touch of fire salts to accelerate the journey, a process of purification. I am providing a service, a release from the grinding misery of this city. My equipment is minimal, but it is of high quality. A silver alembic, a glass retort, a mortar and pestle carved from a single piece of obsidian. They are kept meticulously clean. After every batch, I scour them with river sand and boiled water until no trace of the previous mixture remains. Contamination is the enemy of consistency. Consistency is the foundation of my business. My customers know that my product, my skooma, is the purest in Riften. They pay a premium for that certainty. They call it Redwater Rush, a foolish name. I do not name my products. I simply create them. The leather case is secured. I slide it into a hidden compartment beneath a loose floor stone. My personal supply, my working capital, my inventory is small. I never produce more than I can move in 2 days. Large stockpiles are a liability. They attract the wrong kind of attention. From guards, from the Thieves' Guild, from competitors. I work alone. I trust no one. Trust is a luxury for people with nothing to lose. I count my septums. 243. The pouch is heavy in my hand. It is not enough. It is never enough. The cost of raw moon sugar has increased. The Khajiit caravans are being squeezed by the war, or so they claim. More likely, they are just squeezing me. Everyone takes a cut. The guards at the city gate look the other way for a price. Delvin Mallory ensures the guild leaves my customers alone for a price. And Leif Stonefist, Maven Blackbriar's loyal dog. He collects his share every week, regular as the tide. He calls it a tax, an insurance payment. I call it the cost of doing business. I take out the obsidian mortar and pestle. The stone is cool and smooth against my skin. There is a small chip on the lip of the mortar, an old imperfection. I run my thumb over it. It is familiar. The weight of the pestle is balanced perfectly in my hand. I have ground thousands of ingredients with this tool. Blue mountain flower, wheat, blisterwort, moon sugar. It is all the same motion, a circular grinding, the reduction of a solid into a powder. The first step in any transformation. We are falling behind, Raven. Suvaris's voice was strained. She held up the ledger, a thin book filled with our neat, precise script. Now the entries were mostly outgoing, new debts scribbled in the margins. The cost of the fire salts alone took nearly everything we made from the temple order. And that merchant from Windhelm is demanding payment for the last shipment of Chorus eggs. I did not look at the ledger. I was staring into the flames of the hearth, watching the wood turn to glowing embers. The warmth did not seem to reach me. I know. I have a plan. Another plan. There was an edge to her voice now, a sharpness that had not been there a month ago. Your last plan was to brew 24 potions of invisibility. We sold 3. The rest are collecting dust on the shelf. No one in Riften wants to be invisible. They just want to be warm and fed. This is different, I insisted, turning to face her. I tried to keep my voice even, reasonable. This is not about some niche potion. It is about a new formula, a restorative, something more potent than a standard healing potion, something that invigorates the body and clarifies the mind. Think of it, Suvaris, a draft for scholars burning the midnight oil, for mercenaries facing a long march, for anyone needing to push past their natural limits. She looked skeptical. And what would be in this miracle potion? I hesitated. The base would be complex. It requires a difficult refinement process and some rare components. Void salts, for one. Her eyes widened. Void salts? Raven, we cannot afford that. It is one of the most expensive reagents there is, and it is dangerous to work with. I know the risks, I said, my patience fraying. But think of the reward. We could sell a single vial for what we make on 12 healing potions. We could get out from under these debts. We could finally have the life we talked about. I could see the desire in her eyes, the desperate wish to believe me. It warred with the practical, cautious nature that had kept us afloat for so long. Where would we even get void salts? She asked quietly. We cannot afford to buy them, not in the quantity you would need to develop a new formula. I had already thought about this. I had spent sleepless nights thinking about it. The College of Winterhold sends a shipment to the Jarl's Court Wizard every few months. It comes by carriage. The carriage stops overnight in Ivarstead. My own words sounded foreign to me, like they were being spoken by someone else. Someone more reckless. Someone I did not recognize. Suvaris stared at me, her face pale. You are talking about stealing. Raven, we are not thieves. We are desperate, I shot back. Desperation changes things. It is not stealing. It is acquiring a resource. We are not thugs, we are alchemists. We will use it to create something that will help people. The Jarl's wizard will just let it sit on a shelf. We would be putting it to a better use. The justification felt thin even as I said it. It was a flimsy cloak thrown over a cold, hard necessity. I do not like it, she whispered. This is a line we have never crossed. We are standing on a cliff's edge, Suvaris, I said, my voice low and urgent. We can either stay here and wait to fall, or we can try to fly. This is our only chance. I took her hands in mine. They were cold. Trust me. Trust our craft. We can do this. Together. She did not pull away, but she did not squeeze my hands back either. She just stood there, her eyes fixed on the fire, as if she could see our future burning away in the flames. We both knew we had already crossed the line. The only question was how far we would go. The alley stinks of spoiled fish and cheap ale. My customer is a skeever of a man, an Argonian named Dirkethus. His scales are a dull, muddy brown, and his eyes dart back and forth, never settling on one spot for more than a second. He is a new client, unreliable, jittery. I do not like dealing with new clients. "You have it?" he hisses, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. I do not answer. I simply hold out my hand. He looks at my open palm, then back at my face. My expression does not change. I am a stone wall. He can either pay the price of admission or he can go back to the Skooma dens in the gray quarter of Windhelm and drink the swill they serve there. The choice is his. With a trembling hand, he pulls a small, worn pouch from his belt and drops it into my palm. I do not count it here. That would be a sign of weakness, of distrust. I weigh it in my hand. It feels right. 50 septums. The agreed-upon price for a single vial. Only then do I reach into my coat and produce the product. A small glass vial filled with the shimmering blue liquid. I press it into his hand. His claws close around it possessively. His whole body seems to sigh in relief. "The good stuff," he breathes, holding it up to the faint light filtering down from the sky between the leaning buildings. "Red water. Rush." "Do not drink it all at once," I say. My voice is flat, devoid of emotion. It is not a warning. It is a simple instruction, a matter of professional pride. My product is potent. An amateur who overindulges will not have a pleasant journey. They will have a seizure. It is bad for business. A little goes a long way. "I know how to handle it," he says, a flash of bravado in his tone. He is lying. They all lie. They all think they are masters of their own appetites. I know better. I turn to leave. I have the septums. The transaction is complete. My part is done. "Wait," he says. I stop, but I do not turn around. I heard there is a new guard captain in the city, cracking down, is it true?" "There are always new guards," I reply, my eyes scanning the mouth of the alley. "They make a lot of noise, they make a few arrests. Then they learn how things work in Riften. They start taking their payments just like the old ones did. Nothing changes. This is the fundamental truth of this city. The faces change, but the system remains. Maven Blackbriar's system." "And the guild?" he presses. "They will not bother me?" "You are my client," I say. "A portion of your 50 septums has already been allocated to ensure your uninterrupted enjoyment of your purchase. The guild understands the arrangement." I start walking again. I can hear him uncork the vial behind me. I do not look back. He is no longer my concern. He is a ghost. They are all ghosts, chasing a feeling they can never quite catch again. I am just the one who sells them the shovels to dig their own graves. It is a living. My mind is already on the next step. I have to restock my supply of moon sugar. The next Khajiit caravan is due in 3 days. Their prices will be higher. I will need to adjust my own. The balance is delicate, too high, and my clients will seek out cheaper, inferior products. Too low, and I cannot cover my own expenses, my own taxes. It is a constant calculation of risk and reward. It is a craft, just like any other. The ingredients are just more dangerous. The consequences of a mistake are just more final. The sickness came on slowly. At first it was just a cough, a rattling in her chest that she dismissed as the Riften damp. We burned more wood in the hearth and brewed teas with tundra cotton and lavender. But it did not get better. It got worse. The cough became a constant, racking thing that left her breathless and pale. She grew thin, the light in her eyes dimming. I took her to the temple of Mara, to the priestess Danica Purespring, who was visiting from Whiterun. She examined Suvaris, her face grim. "It is a lung rot," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Common in the damp places of Skyrim, the canals, the marshes. It takes root deep in the lungs. Standard healing potions will have little effect." "What can be done?" I asked, my voice tight with a fear I had not felt since we fled the eruption of Red Mountain as children. "There are poultices, alchemical treatments, but they are expensive, and the ingredients are difficult to source, and they are not always successful." She gave me a list: powdered mammoth tusk, vampire dust, the petals of a crimson nirnroot. I looked at the list and my heart sank. It might as well have been a list of stars from the sky. We could not afford a single one of these ingredients, let alone all of them. We left the temple and walked back to our small shop in silence. The gray sky wept a cold drizzle that mirrored the despair in my own chest. We had failed. Our hard work, our craft, it was not enough. The world was bigger and colder than our small, warm room. That night, as Suvaris slept a fitful, cough-racked sleep, I stayed up. I looked at the void salts I had stolen from the college shipment. The theft had been clumsy, terrifying. I had nearly been caught. The salt sat in a lead-lined box on my workbench, a shimmering volatile dust that seemed to hum with a strange energy. I had been trying to use them to create my miracle restorative, my ticket out of this life, but my experiments had failed one after another. The formulas were unstable, the results unpredictable. Now I looked at the salts with a new desperation. I thought of the priestess's words. Standard potions were not enough. I needed something more, something that would shock the system, burn out the sickness from the inside. I started to work, not with the careful precision of an alchemist, but with the frantic energy of a cornered animal. I remembered stories from my youth in Morrowind, whispers among the outcast apothecaries in the Grey Quarter. Stories of a forbidden recipe, one that used moon sugar not as a narcotic but as a catalyst. A way to unlock the body's hidden reserves of energy, to force a powerful, violent healing. It was considered dangerous, heretical, but I was beyond caring about heresy. I took the small pouch of moon sugar I had bought from a Khajiit trader weeks ago, a substance I had always considered beneath my craft. I ground it into a fine, sparkling powder. The obsidian pestle felt heavy in my hand. I mixed it with the void salts, a volatile combination. I added other ingredients not based on proven formulas but on instinct, on a wild hope. I worked through the night, the alchemy table, a chaotic mess of beakers and burners. The final product was not a healing potion. It was something new. It glowed with a faint reddish light in the vial. It looked alive. It looked dangerous. It looked like hope. I knew I was taking a terrible risk. This was not alchemy. This was a prayer to a god I did not believe in. A gamble with the only thing I had left to lose. I looked at Suvaris, her face slick with sweat in the candlelight, her breathing a shallow, painful rasp. I thought of her laughter, of the warmth of her hand in mine. I would not lose her to this city. I would not let the damp and the rot and the poverty claim her. I would save her. I had to. I inspect the latest batch. It is a failure. The color is wrong, a murky brownish red instead of the vibrant clear hue it should be. There is sediment at the bottom of the flask, a sign of incomplete synthesis. I pour a single drop onto a shard of slate. It sizzles, releasing a foul, acrid smoke. Useless, worse than useless, poisonous. I curse under my breath. That is a whole batch of moon sugar wasted, 100 septums worth of raw material gone. I will have to start over. I meticulously clean the equipment, scouring away every trace of the failed experiment. There is no room for error in this work. A small miscalculation, a momentary lapse in concentration, and the result is this, a vial of brown poison. I remember a batch that went wrong a long time ago. The first one. The color had been similar, a cloudy red. I had been inexperienced then, operating on hope instead of chemistry. Hope is a poor reagent. It is unstable. It contaminates everything it touches. As I work, I hear a sound from the tunnel outside my door. A cough, a deep rattling cough that echoes in the stone confines of the ratway. It is a familiar sound. The sound of the lung rot that infests the lower levels of this city. So many of my clients have that cough. They say the red water rush helps. They say it clears the lungs, numbs the pain, lets them breathe for a few hours. I do not know if it is true. I do not care. I sell a product. What the customer does with it is their own affair. The coughing fades as the person moves on. For a moment it had snagged on something inside me, a memory, a flicker of an old pain. I push it down. Pain is a liability. Memory is a ghost. They have no place in this life. This life is about the present moment, the tally of septums, the weight of the ingredients, the clarity of the final product. Everything else is a distraction. On a small hidden shelf behind a loose brick, I keep a few personal items. It is a foolish indulgence, a weakness, but it is one I allow myself. There is a small, worn pouch of septums I never spend, and next to it a small object carved from wood. It is a songbird, its head cocked as if listening to a tune only it can hear. The wood is dark and smooth from years of handling. I pick it up. I run my thumb over its wings. It is just a piece of wood, a trinket. It has no value. It serves no purpose. I place it back on the shelf and replace the brick. I have work to do, a new batch to brew. The demand is constant. The city is always thirsty. Drink this. My voice was a raw whisper. I held the vial of reddish liquid in a trembling hand. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a weak gray light through the single window of our shop. Suvaris was awake, her dark eyes huge in her pale face. She looked at the potion, then at me. "What is it, Raven?" she breathed, her voice barely audible over the sound of her own labored breathing. "It is the cure," I said, trying to force confidence into my tone. "It is the new formula. It is strong. It will burn out the sickness." I did not tell her it was made with moon sugar. I did not tell her it was a desperate gamble based on a heretical theory. I told her what she needed to hear, what I needed to believe. She coughed, a dry, racking sound that shook her whole body. When it passed, she looked at the vial again. There was no fear in her eyes. Only a deep, profound weariness. She was tired of fighting. "You have been up all night," she said. "I had to finish it," I said. "For us." She reached out a thin hand and touched my face. Her fingers were cold. "My brilliant alchemist," she murmured. "Always trying to fix the world with a potion." A faint smile played on her lips, a ghost of the smile I loved. "All right, I trust you, Raven. I always have." With my help, she sat up. I uncorked the vial. The smell was sharp, sweet, and somehow metallic. It did not smell like any healing potion I had ever known. My heart was pounding against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of hope and terror. This was it. The culmination of all my skill, all my desperation, the single moment on which our entire future rested. I brought the vial to her lips. "Just a little," I said. "It is very concentrated." She drank. She did not flinch from the strange taste. She drank it all, then lay back against the pillows, her eyes closing. I watched her, my own breathing suspended. For a long moment, nothing happened. The only sound was the ticking of the dwarven clock on the wall, each tick an eternity. Then her breathing changed. The shallow, painful rasp smoothed out. It became deeper, slower. A flush of color rose in her cheeks. Her eyes fluttered open, they were clear. The weary fog was gone. "Raven," she said, and her voice was stronger, clearer. Relief washed over me in a wave so powerful it almost brought me to my knees. It worked. My gamble, my heresy, it had worked. I had saved her. "I am here," I choked out, tears blurring my vision. She smiled, a real smile this time. "I feel warm," she said. "The ache in my chest, it is gone." She took a deep breath, a full, clean breath that did not end in a cough. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. "It is working," I said, laughing through my tears. I told you I could fix it." She reached for my hand. "We can start again," she whispered, her eyes shining. "Away from this city, somewhere warm, somewhere dry." "Yes," I said, squeezing her hand. "Anywhere you want." But then, a tremor ran through her body, a small, violent shudder. Her smile vanished, replaced by a look of confusion. "Raven, what is happening?" Her hand clenched mine with surprising strength. Her eyes were wide, fixed on something I could not see. Her breath hitched. Another tremor, stronger this time, shook her entire frame. The color in her cheeks deepened to an unnatural, feverish flush. Her heart, I could feel its frantic hammering beat through her wrist. It was too fast, far too fast. The warmth she felt was a fire burning through her from the inside. My cure was not a cure, it was a poison, a beautiful, shimmering, fast-acting poison. Her breathing stopped. "I am cleaning my equipment. The process is always the same. River sand, boiled water, and a stiff, bristled brush." I scour the inside of the glass retort, my arm moving in a steady, circular motion. Every surface must be perfectly clean. Every trace of the last batch must be obliterated. It is a matter of purity, of professionalism. I think about recipes. The balance of ingredients is everything. A healing potion requires blue mountain flour and wheat. Simple, effective. Add a saber cat tooth, and you get a potion of the warrior fortifying one's strength. Replace the wheat with blisterwort, and the potion grants invisibility. Each ingredient has a purpose, a role to play in the final synthesis. Chemistry is a language. The good alchemist is a fluent speaker, but a mistake in grammar can change the meaning of a sentence entirely. An ingredient in the wrong proportion, a catalyst added at the wrong temperature, can curdle a batch. A perfect, life-giving blue mountain flower, when combined with nightshade and a miscalculated measure of a certain activating agent, becomes a paralytic toxin. A single miscalculation can transform a cure into a curse. I have a name for that specific formula, the one that results from that particular error. I call it the Suvaris toxin, a private, professional designation for a catastrophic failure. A mistake I will never make again. I learned the lesson. I learned it completely. Now my work is flawless. My measurements are exact. My results are consistent. There is no more hope in my work. There is no more love. There is only the cold, perfect math of the formula, the process, the product. I finish cleaning the retort and move on to the alembic. The work is meditative, it quiets the mind, it focuses the hands. It is the only thing that is real. The feel of the glass, the scrape of the brush, the heat of the water. These are the facts of my existence. Everything else is a ghost. Everything else is a memory of a failed experiment. I take the septums from the Argonian. The pouch is light, but the count is correct. 50 septums. He scurries away into the shadows of the ratway, clutching his vial of blue forgetting. I do not watch him go. He is a variable I no longer need to track. "Remember," I had told him, my voice as flat as the stones under my feet, "the dose makes the poison. Start with a drop, only a drop." It was good advice, the kind a master alchemist gives to an apprentice. Precise, professional, necessary. My product is not for amateurs. It demands respect. The tally in my head updates. 293 septims. The cost of the next batch of moon sugar is covered. The Blackbriar tax is covered. The rent on this hole in the wall is covered. There is a small surplus. Profit. That is the point of the exercise. I turn and walk deeper into the gloom, the sound of dripping water my only companion. The obsidian pestle is a familiar weight in my coat pocket. It is time to begin the process again. There is always another batch to brew. The city is always thirsty. My craft provides. I pull the worn pouch from my pocket, the one I never spend. I do not open it, I just hold it. It is empty. It has always been empty. I put it back. I have work to do.